Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Murphy, and I'll hopefully guide us through a very informative hour today to talk about some emerging models in policing and public safety. And I know we have limited time, so I am going to jump right in and introduce our first two panelists who are here. A third will be joining us about halfway through. First, it's my honor to introduce you all to Chief Roxana Kennedy, the Chief of Police of Chula Vista Police Department here in Southern California. And Chief Kennedy was appointed in December of 2016 as the Chief for Chula Vista, the 24th Chief of Police. Chief Kennedy began her law enforcement career in 1992 after graduating from the Southwestern College Police Academy. She rose through the ranks to become the first female lieutenant, captain, and ultimately chief of police at Chula Vista Police Department, as well as the first internally selected chief of police in 67 years. Chief Kennedy is committed to the 6 pillars of the 21st century policing by providing the highest level of professional law enforcement services to our community by building trust and legitimacy, increasing the use of technology, implementing community policing strategies, expanding officer training and education, and enhancing officer safety and wellness. Under Chief Kennedy's leadership, the Chula Vista Police Department has adopted an innovation initiative focused on using technology to enhance community safety, increase situational awareness and officer safety, and to reduce response times. Chula Vista Police Department is proud to be the first and only police department to work under the Federal Aviation Administration's UAS Integrated Pilot Program, Drone as First Responder or DFR concept, which provides real-time data to officers and supervisors, allowing officers to make better tactical decisions in the field, providing safer outcomes for all parties involved. Chief Kennedy's goal is sharing CVDPD's story with law enforcement partners nationally and internationally to help standardize and expand to any agency interested in the benefits. Most recently, Chief Kennedy completed intensive training and is now a FAA Part 107 certified drone pilot, which helps her have a greater understanding of how beneficial this program is for public safety. Thank you and welcome to the panel, Chief Kennedy. And next
pleasure
panel,
to be here.
And it's certainly our pleasure for you to be here with us. Our next panelist is Associate Vice President Josh Mays. Josh Mays is the Associate Vice President for Safety at the San Diego State University, overseeing all aspects of campus safety and emergency preparedness. Prior to this role, he served as the San Diego State University Chief of Police for nearly 7 years. A lifelong public safety professional, Josh began his career with the Fresno County Sheriff's Department in 1999. He emphasizes people-centered leadership, fairness, and collaboration, and holds degrees in criminology and negotiation and international peace building. Associate Vice President Mays implemented industry-leading methods within the UPD as the Chief of Police with the creation of an in-house threat management team and an in-house behavioral assessment team on a major university campus. Then Chief Mays also established a crime analyst and crime intelligence role within the UPD to facilitate data-driven response methods. Thank you, AVP Mays, for joining our panel today, and we're excited to have you with us. So, as we get into a discussion this morning, I just want to acknowledge that we operate in a space that is fully within the information technology age. Policing is more impacted and influenced by social media, artificial intelligence, and the proliferation of video footage in every aspect of life. Some efforts by police departments include the introduction of technology to leverage the resources at hand to adequately meet the needs of the communities you all serve. To that end, we would like to hear your collective thoughts on innovative policing models through approaches like data-driven policing and alternative response strategies with a focus on the communities each of you serve. So kind of with that backdrop, I'll do my best to guide us through a conversation with a series of questions, and I'll also check over periodically to see if we have questions coming from the chat group. But to start off, I'll provide the first question to you, Chief Kennedy, and it is under the concept of alternative response strategies. Would you please describe any alternative response strategies you use in your jurisdiction to address the community's increasing demands for more immediate response to crimes in progress.
Well, thank you. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. And I get a little passionate, just so you know, when I start talking about, and also the integration of technology, because I really believe that we are in a point right now where technology is really blending with policing and really helping us be much more responsive to the needs of the community. So we're doing a number of things. And so I'd go on way too long if I covered them all in depth, but I'll just kind of surface coat some of the stuff. Like our Drone as First Responder program is a game changer, without a doubt, because when I think about the needs of the community, I think about being a police officer and going into scenes often with very limited information and without, I like to say, a crystal ball. So people think we know exactly what we're going into, and oftentimes we have really limited information. Having the officers have the ability to have their cell phones and be able to view what the drone is responding to prior to them getting there, it's made such a huge difference. So our drones are responding to actual calls for service. So they're not randomly patrolling throughout our city, but they're responding to calls for service. They're feeding information to our officers prior to them getting there so that they have more situational awareness. On top of that, we also have something called Live 911. So that means when anyone dials in to 911, we can actually pinpoint their exact location. And keep this in mind that people are traumatized by what they're experiencing. They don't always give us accurate information just because they don't even know where they're at. So now we can pinpoint their location. We can get there with the drone. The officers can see on their cell phone what's happening. There's so many things that are happening right now that are helping us connect with our community and get there quicker. We also have one now. Draft one is the ability to utilize our body-worn cameras, which tell the actual story of actually what's happening. And through AI-generated report writing, which is closed AI, it's not open AI like it is with ChatGPT, they can actually do their reports quicker. Why is that important to the community? More accurately, more informed, more information. Get these reports done quicker so the officers can get back out on the streets to help the community when they need us most. So there's so many things that are happening right now that are really helping us improve our response time, improve our relationship with the community, and there's nothing worse to the community when they call the police and you have to wait for a response. So everything we're doing is so that we can get there quicker and help the community when they need us most.
Well, thank you so much. Those are certainly exceptional emerging methodologies and technologies being applied, and it is only impressive to hear how it is being applied there. Director Mays, would you please describe how you utilize data-driven policing to direct police resources to respond to the community's demands on a major university campus situated in a very urban environment?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me here, Chief Kennedy. Nice to see you. One of the points in my remarks to this specific question is just offering a word of caution that we tend to always gravitate towards the newest thing, the newest data, the newest driver. And sometimes that's not always necessary when we have data that you can review to help you and your policing efforts. At San Diego State University, we rely heavily on data-driven strategies to guide how we deploy our limited police resources in a very complex environment. To give you a little bit of perspective, SDSU functions much like a small city. And all of the complexities and challenges that exist in any other town exist here, arguably with a layered challenge that, because of our smaller footprint, often news and misinformation travels quickly. On an average daytime population, we hover around 65,000 people, but that number can double when stadiums or arenas or other venues are active. At night, it's a different dynamic. Our residential community includes only about 12,000 residents, but those dynamics fluctuate depending on the time of year and the season. And with this level of complexity and a comparatively small budget, data becomes central to everything that we do in terms of policing. For further context, the city of San Diego allocates roughly about 34 to 36% of its general fund to policing, while in the California State University system, that figure is typically 2 to 3% of the overall total budget. Obviously, that's a significant difference, and it means that we have to both be precise and proactive. And as they say, you can't change what you can't measure. We use multi-source data to identify emerging patterns, crime trends, calls for service trends, environmental data, such as lighting and foot traffic, and community feedback. Together, these inputs drive decisions around patrol deployment, event staffing, and prevention programs. As mentioned in the introduction, we have a crime analyst that plays a key role in monitoring and synthesizing data for patrol operations, major events, demonstrations, and a variety of other activities. We look closely at the type and location of calls, the duration of the response, and the resources that were required. This analysis allows leadership to deploy assets efficiently and focus on higher areas of need. More importantly, that data helps us ask deeper questions, such as, are there inefficiencies driven by a lack of training or a potentially an outdated policy? Is there an emerging trend or recurring call type, such as mental health crisis, that might require a new approach or specialized response model? While the data points themselves seem routine or obvious, the real value tends to lie in how we operationalize them. So how we use that information to guide decision-making, shape policy, continually improve our department's effectiveness. I encourage leaders to use data strategically when communicating with stakeholders. So for example, if your city council or community members request a specific initiative, use your data to illustrate the current gaps, explain why those outcomes can't be achieved and what existing resources, and then offer a data-informed path tying to funding or support. So in short, if you want problem A solved, here's the cost, city council, here's the data behind it, and here's the impact if funded. That's how you can turn your data into leverage, not just for accountability, but for building a shared understanding and support. We also leverage real-time technology through our enhanced CCTV system, which covers most of the entire SDSU campus. It integrates license plate recognition, gunshot detection, aggressive voice analytics, behavioral analytics, environmental detection anomaly, all feeding into our communication center. So this real-time intelligence allows us to intervene early and respond more effectively, improving safety and efficiency. Ultimately, our goal isn't just to collect data, it's to turn information into action. Data helps us anticipate problems before they escalate, focus on resources where they matter most, and continually adapt to the changing dynamic of an urban university environment. The real-time data helps us intervene early and respond more efficiently. One critical component of the data landscape that's often overlooked is community input, and Chief Kennedy touched on this. At SDSU, we've built intentional structures to capture that perspective through several standing boards, groups, and committees that focus on safety and well-being. These groups have been instrumental in fostering collaboration and tangible outcomes. They meet regularly, they identify priorities, many of which include funding for projects, and work collaboratively to implement the solution. So importantly, these committees also serve as constructive forums for community concerns. When individuals or groups have frustrations over safety issues, response times, we can connect them directly to these established bodies. This ensures their voices are heard within a framework that has clear expectations, past successes, and a culture of respect and problem solving. The approach not only strengthens trust and transparency, but it also reduces disruption to daily police operations. Conversations become more productive, less adversarial, and usually are grounded in shared responsibility. As current or future leaders in your organization, I encourage you not to overlook or shy away from this. Lean into it. Community sentiment is one of the most valuable data points we have, and it's often missed or overlooked by agencies. Too often we see the numbers don't align with what people feel. The gap is perception versus reality. It's where trust is built or lost. So take the time to meet with your community, listen to their concerns, and understand their lived experiences. When your community feels valued and heard, you'll often see the approval and trust in your department increase, even if crime numbers are trending in a direction that you don't like. So don't get caught up in focusing only on the quantitative data. Some of the most important insights come from human interactions and perceptions of safety. And sometimes the solution isn't always more enforcement, it's better engagement or environmental changes. In many cases, it's far less expensive to improve lighting or increase patrol presence at a certain time or redesigning a pathway than it is to add another officer. So in my experience, when residents see that kind of responsiveness, they become more rational, cooperative, and partners in public safety rather than passive observers.
Wow, thank you so very much for that very comprehensive response. And I love the end of the response because the focus really shifted to the community and the community engagement, which is so critical. And it actually is an excellent segue into our next question for Chief Kennedy. Chief Kennedy, I happen to be familiar with some of the sustained community engagement initiatives that you have established in the County of San Diego. Can you please elaborate on how these engagement initiatives, such as Standing in the Gap, for example, help you to achieve a community-centric model of policing?
Well, I was chomping at the bit as Josh was speaking there, and very excited to hear about many of the things that you guys are doing at SDSU. But it really does focus and center around community, right? And without the support of your community, you're going to be very limited in what you're able to achieve. And what I have found is that oftentimes there's a lot of misperception within community for a number of different reasons. And we've definitely gone through some challenging times in policing. And we've seen some poor examples of policing that have really created challenges for those who have the best of intentions in policing. And so what I have found is that most people fear what they don't know, or they'll listen, as you mentioned earlier, about social media. Things will come out on social media and they're inaccurate. So what we have done in the County of San Diego, as well as at the Chula Vista Police Department, is we have really reached out to the community. And the one example that you brought forward was Stand in the Gap. Stand in the Gap is a group of faith-based leaders in San Diego County from all different areas. And I actually met one of the gentlemen who now leads this Stand in the Gap group and talked to him. And during the George Floyd riots and the protests and all the things that went on, I reached out to him and told him that I wanted to work with them. I wanted to have these faith-based leaders be the ones that could be the voice out there in the community and help us. And let's build bridges and let's figure out what their concerns are. And so out of that started the group Stand in the Gap. And now the San Diego County Chiefs meet on a regular quarterly basis. And we talk about issues. We talk about concerns in the community. We talk about the way that people fear policing and why. We've heard examples. And that has been a really some of them very contentious meetings, very challenging, tough things to hear sometimes. But in policing, you have to hear those tough things, the way people view policing. If you want to change policing, you've got to get in the trenches and figure out why people feel the way that they do. So that's one example that I felt has been really great for the leaders, right? Because the leaders of policing organizations are the ones who really need to push change, to push the ideas and be the example of moving forward to address some of the issues. Something else that we do in Chula Vista is we have a Chiefs Community Advisory Committee. And these are the voices of the community. These are people in the community that said, not necessarily were supporters of law enforcement. Riots started and like 25 protests and all the things that went on with it. And each chief has brought in even more people that have wanted to be involved. But we have tough questions brought to us about policing. We have them review our policies. We have them provide input. Like one of the policies that was really one that they really wanted to provide a lot of information on was our immigration policy and how we treat the immigrant community. And, there were terms that were in that years ago that have just been there for years that use the term alien, right? And we said, it's an undocumented individual. And first off, in Chula Vista, we wouldn't even know if someone's documented or undocumented because we don't ask those questions. So how you view people, how you treat people, it all boils down to people. So we also do numerous community forums. We do teen academies where we bring in the youth from the community. We do our community citizen academies where we bring them in so they can go through the training and the experiences we do. It's really about sitting down and listening and having conversations and meeting people on their terms where they feel comfortable enough to share their concerns and their ideas and actually start to see what I call the heart behind the badge. And I think that's super important, that we are human beings, that we do live in these communities. We have children that go to the same schools. We're vested in our community. And I tell my officers, they probably get tired of hearing it from me, but I tell them to invest in the community and the community will invest in you. And I think that's what I've seen more than anything in our community. I've been here now going on 34 years, is that we have a strong culture of community policing, of really investing in our community and putting ourselves in the shoes of other people and realizing that when you call the police because you need help. They don't want to wait for 15 hours for you to respond. And so you'll see many of the things that we're doing right now are all because we want to be there to help our community. We ask for feedback. We ask for a lot of information from our community, and we listen so that we can help them as they deal with the challenges that they deal with. You know, I think more than anything, I think when I hear Josh talking about at State, it's the same thing. State is a small city. It's a city there, and how you treat your community reflects in how the people feel about you. And San Diego State has a very good reputation because of the way that they take care of their community there. We feel the same way about the community of Chula Vista. And I think as leaders, if we're speaking to people who want to be future leaders in law enforcement, the number one thing that you need to remember is how you treat people and how you treat your employees, how my officers feel. If my officers are not happy and they have an issue with morale, that will be felt when they go out into the community. And so it's super important that you create a culture where people matter. And I tell officers, when the community stops calling us is when we have a problem. And it's not just crime issues, it's quality of life issues that we deal with more than anything else. And helping people, I said, 1 minute as an officer, you're a guardian, the next minute you have to be a warrior, and you have to be able to turn that on and off, and how you help people manage through the challenges of life. So I'm excited that you're having this conversation. I think it's very important for people to really understand that the community is the number one key. When you talk about your officers, your employees, and the community, they're really one.
That's amazing. As I listen to you, I'm reminded, this topic is about emerging models. And of course, we think about the technology and application of technology, but also your comment bring me back to the fundamental and foundations illustrated or stated by Sir Robert Peel, right?
Mhm.
Police are the community and the community are the police. And it really is a theory that has withstood the test of time. Similarly, tell us, Director Mays, from your prior time as chief of police and currently the director of all aspects of public safety, what was and are the approaches that you promote to facilitate a community-centric model of policing?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As Chief Kennedy said, if you don't have the community, you don't have anything really. And one of the taglines for SDSU Police was, we want to be a part of the community, not just a response to it. So my answer is going to focus on some potential takeaways. It might not work for everybody, but it's my 2 cents, take it or leave it. But we hear terms like community policing, community-centric, and partnership-based policing all the time. But the real question is, what does that actually look like in practice? How do you make it meaningful and actionable and not just aspirational? It starts with understanding your community. So whether your jurisdiction is large or small, your community is made up of unique groups, each with their own individual priorities, pressures, and perspectives. And the first step is assessing who they are and what matters to them. Before engaging, I encourage you to build a strategy. Have your public information officer or social media teams help you monitor community sentiment, local events, or any emerging concerns. They're going to post them on social media. That awareness allows you to engage authentically and not always reactively. Sometimes that engagement is small but powerful. Sending a few patrol cars through a high school car wash, for example, showing up at a cultural event, or supporting a community group that's supporting others. So those seemingly simple actions build recognition and trust long before crisis happens. When it comes to political issues, protests or demonstrations, our approach has been engage early. Reach out to organizers, offer support, and establish open lines of communication. And be balanced. If you meet with one group on a sensitive issue, make sure you extend the same courtesy and outreach to those with opposing viewpoints, because that transparency will help bias or favoritism and reinforces your neutrality as a public safety agency. Social media is also a key part of community connection. So decide what story you want to tell as police leaders. Do what you want to highlight data and case outcomes, or maybe you want to showcase the human side of your officers, or maybe it's both. Either way, control your narrative by being proactive and intentional, and you can control your social media message. So don't forget that element. At the same time, be aware that community engagement can be very complex. If a major national or global event occurs, for example, an international conflict that affects members of your community, reach out to those groups directly. A phone call, a meeting, a show of support can make a tremendous difference in trust and safety. But be strategic. Also plan for how you will engage the opposing viewpoint, so no group feels excluded or unsupported. Also, think critically about how your department, your officers, and even the uniform itself may be perceived. It's easy for well-intentioned efforts to take unintended meetings. For example, when I served as chief, I chose not to authorize our participation in the Pink Patch Project, despite supporting the cause wholeheartedly. The union was unhappy with me, but my reasoning was strategic. If we say yes to one great cause, how do we justify saying no to another? The uniform, in my opinion, should remain as neutral as possible. Even the most positive symbolism can complicate things later for you. So always think about your long-term strategy and how it can guide your short-term decisions. When you face criticism, see it as an opportunity, not an attack. Ask yourself, how can I turn this moment into collaboration? How can I bring this community inside the department? For example, during a period of criticism following a hate crime involving a Muslim member of our community, one of our officers unintentionally referred to the hijab as a headpiece. That terminology deeply upset members of the Muslim community. Rather than become defensive, we saw this as a teachable moment. I invited community leaders to come in and speak directly to our officers during roll call, teaching them about the significance of the hijab and other traditional attire. The training cost us nothing. It was free, but it built tremendous trust. It showed humility and accountability and a willingness to learn. Later, when news arose involving Muslim community members, those same leaders became our greatest allies and partners because we had built that relationship through respect and openness. Now, I understand that every department can't bring community members into their roll call or lineup, but if that's the case, find another way. Record a short video, have them participate in a virtual briefing, or invite them to train your field training officers or train the trainer teams. There's always a way to make it work, and it pays dividends in the long run. Another essential component of this approach, and Chief Kennedy mentioned it, is humility. When appropriate, and obviously when your legal counsel allows, admit when something could have been handled better. Explain the challenges your department faces. I often remind people we recruit from the human race, mistakes are going to happen. Owning that truth with transparency and sincerity eases those tensions and usually makes the conversation more authentic. And remember the bus analogy, once shared with me a while ago. We're all on the same bus, but are we in the right seats? In other words, think critically about who should deliver that message. Sometimes it should be the chief or even command staff, but sometimes it shouldn't. Sometimes it could be best coming from a line level officer or a peer who can connect more directly. The messenger matters just as much as the message. Again, how does that fit into your long-term strategy? By approaching criticism with openness, humility, and strategy, you can transform potential conflict into a bridge building opportunity that strengthens your department and your community. Finally, I know it's a lot more work and sometimes challenging to manage, but it's vital to create structures for ongoing engagement, and Chief Kennedy touched on these. The Chief's Advisory Board or a Safety Advisory Council or programs like Coffee with the Chief. These frameworks build sustainable community coalitions. Over time, they create multiple voices in the community who understand your mission and can help you carry a message during difficult times. You can't build those relationships in a crisis. They have to be in place beforehand. In the end, being community-centric isn't a program, it's a mindset. And so it's about being visible and balanced and genuinely invested in the well-being of the people you serve. So how do you make that fit into your strategy?
Well, thank you so very much. And certainly, one of, I'm sure, many takeaways is really the importance of developing a strategy and planning the approach to the community engagement. And you certainly highlighted many of the benefits from doing so. Next question that I have is, and we anticipate the third panelist joining us at any moment. But while we wait, we'll go ahead with this question, and I'll direct it to either of the two of you. To what degree does the diversity makeup of your city or jurisdiction influence the decisions you make with respect to data-driven policing, if any? And secondarily, explain any challenges or advantages created as a result of the spectrum of diversity to which you deal with.
So I guess I'll go ahead and start first. Diversity is everything. Understanding your community, like Chula Vista is 52 square miles, and we have a multitude of different nationality, religions. We have a large Filipino American community. We have a very large Hispanic community. I think we're about 60% Hispanic right now. So understanding those communities and understanding that maybe there's certain communities that might not feel completely comfortable with policing or might be fearful, especially with some of the, challenges that we're all facing right now in society in terms of some individuals in our community having undocumented status. There are people who won't call the police. And so it's really important for us to understand our community and their level of comfort with law enforcement, and how do we bridge that gap to make them comfortable enough to call the police. And so we have a large number of officers that come from all different backgrounds, and we have liaison officers that it's their job and their role to do outreach into the community. So what I found is that sometimes a community won't come to us, so we have to go to them, and we have to find creative ways of outreach with the community. And what we've done, we've had lots of the Coffee with a Cop, the National Night Out. We've had the Taco with a Cop, which is a huge hit. I think one day we had 300 people come to that. And what happens when we do these events with our community, we find ways to just engage with them and have comfortable conversation, and like, oh, what area do you live in and what's happening in your community? So that's an understanding that our officers have to have. So if you don't have a diverse organization, it's much more difficult for you to have outreach to the community. One thing that we do at our department that has helped kind of bridge the gap and make officers and our employees understand why people feel the way that they do is our cultural competency training that we have here. And I think, Greg, you might have met Officer Jeff Pace, who runs that program, who does an amazing job. And we bring people from outside of the department in that maybe don't view law enforcement in a positive way, or tell you about what their experience was with an officer and how that maybe that experience they had with an officer 20 years ago on a traffic stop has been with them this entire time and made them feel the way that they do in a negative manner towards policing. If you don't bring people in from the outside, I think that I tell my officers that challenges create opportunities. And when Josh was talking about, the critics, and there might be people who don't always like law enforcement, or they might tell you negative things. We need to hear that as law enforcement leaders. We need to understand that there might have been a better way for us to handle things, or having authenticity as a leader is super important, and credibility, to the point where having the activists call me and tell me about situations, and I say I always answer, and I say, let me check into that and get back to you. And I always do, because that's the way that we can find out what is happening in our community. And it plays into the diversity and the cultural competency. It's super important for us to understand that I don't have to have everybody who looks exactly the same in the community. The diversity brings just that. It brings something different to the table. And I don't ever hire people because I need this many Hispanics, I need this many Blacks, or I need this many whites, or I need these many Asian officers. I hire the best of the best. And when I get diversity, it's the biggest win in the world to me. Nothing makes me prouder than seeing the mix of people that I have in my organization. But what is the most important part to me is the heart behind the badge. Because without that, if you are in policing and you don't have a heart for service, this job can take its toll on you and change a good person into a jaded individual. And a jaded individual can be dangerous in policing. So to me, I start with the heart. And when I get diversity on top of that, it's a big win.
Excellent. Excellent. Any comments with respect to that, AVP Mays?
I'll just provide two brief comments and more as a takeaway for police leaders or future police leaders that are on the call. When you're at the table, whether it's your command staff team, your training team, community group, ask yourself, who is not here currently? That should be your guiding assessment of who might be missing, which then feeds into an overall diversity picture. And then when you do have that picture filled out and you are having conversation, it's usually about sensitive topics. So whoever is not sharing information or talking, those are probably the people that you need to get information from. So those are just some key takeaways that you can apply in a variety of different situations that revolve around diversity. But it's a strategic way to extract diversity related viewpoints and information and in a safe way that can help better your organization.
Thank you. I'm going to take a brief moment to look over at the chat. We have a couple of questions that I'll kind of condense and rephrase. They're with respect to the use of artificial intelligence. Chief Kennedy made reference to AI in assisting with writing police reports, and just a couple of questions really exploring what challenges are inherent with that, such as, challenges perhaps in court that you have encountered, and just kind of a general sense of its evolution since you've started to explore it.
So with the AI draft one reports that were just starting. So we started on November 1st, but we've done beta testing prior to that. So I fully expect us to have court challenges. That's very normal. I think the important thing is understanding all aspects of this type of technology. So you can go online right now and go to ChatGPT and you can ask it all kinds of questions and you can get back responses. You have to be somewhat careful with that because, you'll hear a lot of the activist community talk about hallucinations and maybe misinformation because it might have pulled it from the wrong source. So it pulls it from the web, right? So those are things that you have to be very, very careful with. The type that we're using is called a closed AI model. It's just within the system that we're using. And so, for instance, when an officer goes out and they utilize their body-worn camera and they're doing a witness interview or a suspect interview and you're asking questions, what will happen is that will generate a report from that, okay? So from a court perspective, it's incumbent upon the officer to make certain that everything in their report is accurate. And that is going to be their responsibility. You have to make sure that it stipulates that AI was used for this. But here's the thing, if a defense attorney is questioning anything, the best thing that we have is the video of the whole interview that shows you everything that took place. So the judge and the jury will be there witnessing that. If they believe that there was anything that was fabricated or anything that was placed in there that shouldn't have been there, you're going to be able to see the video. It just summarizes what took place in that video. So it's not pulling in anything else. It's not adding different words. It's taking and summarizing what took place. But do I expect there to be court cases, 100 challenges, 100%? There always is with new technology. But I don't think you should be afraid of if it's in the right hands. So technology, if it's utilized the right way, is going to be fantastic, right? If it's in the wrong hands, technology can be dangerous. And that's the fear, right? That's the fear. If an officer fabricates a report, they will be fired, okay? They will be fired, and they 100% know that. We have very, very strong policies. I have fired people for the same reason, okay? So, but I think if you, the example of the drones, right? And how we utilize drones and we're the first to do it. Did I think it was crazy? 100%. I mean, I'm old school policing, right? And my people are telling me about, like, we could fly drones to calls. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've said it before. What is this, George Jetson? This is crazy stuff, right? But then you have to stop as a leader and you have to say, wait a minute. Okay, show me how this would work. How could this be? And when they showed me, I said, you know what? I can tell you from my perspective of just responding for many years on November 1st, with limited information. If you are going to show me something that is going to make things safer for everyone, not just safer for the officers, safer for the community members, safer for the subjects that we encounter. If we all go home safer and it was a cigarette lighter that looked like a gun, and we notice that instead of thinking it's a gun, we're going to do those things. So don't let technology alone and the fear of it stop you. Embrace it, figure out strategies slowly. We call it the crawl, walk, run phase. And even though we've been doing this for a while with drones, we're still in the crawl phase. This is all new. There's a lot going on. But if it means that technology is going to pinpoint an active shooter that is in the crowd at San Diego State University wearing a red shirt, so you can pinpoint all individuals in a red shirt, and you explain it that way to the community. If there's a missing child because someone was abducted, and you can pinpoint that license plate reader can show you where that license plate has gone, at least to get you into the area. It's not going to tell you who did it, but it's going to get you closer. Why should we stop using technology when we know it's for the right reason? I think it's really important. You can tell I'm very passionate about this because I've seen the results over and over again. Some battles are worth fighting. I fought very hard on drones. I will fight very hard on draft one. If I determine at any point that there's a flaw in it, we will stop using it. But I have seen nothing that has told me that this isn't the next step in policing for making certain that my officers have their reports done quickly and they get back out in the field to help the community.
Wow. Thank you. And I really just want to reiterate what I feel like is the importance of analyzing different applications of technology. And one of the benefits of, for example, like this webinar, other events that we participate in to listen to other applications of technology and emerging technology is so that we can see that sometimes it's often not necessarily the technology, but the environment and how it is implemented within that environment. And sometimes hearing the different implementation methods can make a difference. So that's the importance of really broadening your exposure to what's happening around your region.
If I could say one more thing, and also it's incumbent on the law enforcement leader as well as their entire team that surrounds them to make sure you're sharing the message with the community. Like tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a story with the media, and they keep saying a lot about all these hallucinations and all these things from the activism community that really is. They always say they're very fearful of what technology could do. And I completely understand that. You should be fearful of what technology can do if it's in the wrong hands, 100%. But they just need to understand that if you educate the community the right way and you take the time to share, like tomorrow when I do the story, I'm going to bring in the news reporter, and I'm going to have the news reporter be the victim. And then we're going to have the officer do the report right from the body-worn camera and let them see right then and there that it's not what you think it is. Okay. And I understand we always want to talk to the activist side. We always want to, sometimes I learn a lot from talking to individuals that are concerned about policing. It makes me think differently. And sometimes I change policies and I change things based upon that. But I think if you let the community come in and actively see what we're doing, the community is going to understand this is needed in policing. This is going to be way better. This is going to get more accurate reports. They're going to be done quicker. And then that officer will be back on the street, because in my community, they want to see an officer on every corner. They will support us getting 4 times the officers that we have. And that's from many years of a lot of work out there in the community. But you have to share the story, and you have to find ways to be creative to share it, because otherwise they'll make up a story and they'll listen only to the activists. They were interviewing people on the street that have no idea what we're doing or talking about. And of course, if you go say they're using AI to do reports now, people panic over that, right? So that means me as the chief, I got to do a lot more work, and I got to make sure we're educating the community and we're sharing our story and finding creative ways to do that. So we'll see how it goes. It could be really great, or it could be very challenging. So we'll see.
But thank you so much for exhibiting the courage to forge into what is our future. I'd also like to, I thought we had him briefly, our third panelist.
I saw Chief McDonnell there for 1 second.
Yeah, and
He's probably trying to get back on.
So we'll see if he makes it back on. What I'll do is I'll give a brief intro. Okay, I'll give a brief intro of him. So
Okay, there we go.
No worries. Hi, Chief. Welcome. Let me give a brief intro for you, and then I'll hit you up with a question. So,
Thank you.
Chief Jim McDonnell brings over 40 years of dedicated service to law enforcement. He began his career with Los Angeles Police Department in 1981, steadily rising through the ranks to become the first assistant chief. A nationally recognized leader in community policing, Chief McDonnell was instrumental in transforming the LAPD by prioritizing de-escalation techniques and strengthening community relationships, helping to position the department as a model for modern policing nationwide. In 2010, Chief McDonnell was appointed Chief of Police of Long Beach Police Department, where his leadership led to significant reductions in crime. His efforts earned Long Beach national recognition for its work in community engagement, counterterrorism, gang enforcement, and human trafficking investigations. In 2014, he was elected Sheriff of the Los Angeles County, where he focused on accountability by establishing key oversight mechanisms, increasing transparency, and launching initiatives to build community trust. Chief McDonnell holds a master's degree in public administration from the University of Southern California and has completed executive education programs at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government and the FBI's National Executive Institute. A devoted family man, married with 2 children, Chief McDonnell's commitment to public safety is deeply informed by his belief that strong communities are built on well-being and the security of families. His vision for the Los Angeles Police Department emphasizes strengthening community ties, enhancing officer wellness, and ensuring a safer, more resilient Los Angeles for all. So thank you so much, Chief McDonnell. And
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for that nice eulogy.
We're very happy to have you, and let me get my question here. We've been talking about emerging models in policing, and we've gone over the use of technology, tried to tie the importance of that technology use with engagement within our community. So now we want to talk about forecasting and looking into the future. So what is your forecast of the intersection of data-driven policing, alternative responses, and community-centric policing and law enforcement in general? And how do you see that future unfolding within your jurisdiction?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, in trying to look at what's coming our way, I look at the unarmed response, and that's been an issue that I think a lot of people anticipated we would push back heavily on. And my concern with that issue is that we not put people in harm's way who are not able to defend themselves, particularly dealing with mental health issues, which are so prevalent today. To certainly the mental health clinicians that we pair up with our officers in the model that we've used in LAPD for many years and has been replicated throughout the country, I think is a very, very good one in that it pairs the officer for safety and the clinician for the expertise that they bring. To send clinicians out without the support of a police officer has worked in the pilot program that we've done here the vast majority of the time. And so I was pleasantly surprised with the outcomes there. But I do think we need to be open to realizing that we've taken on so much for so long that it's not reasonable to believe we can continue to go in that trajectory and be able to do all that the public expects of us. We need to step away a little bit on the things that we're able to and provide for the safety of others who are taking on those tasks. But I look at dealing with mental health issues as a prime example of that. We take somebody who's come on the job and 6 months in the academy and then a probationary period, and then put them in a car with a partner and then send any problem society can come up with to them. And is that reasonable? We don't do that in any other field. And so anything we can do to avail ourselves of additional expertise, people who've dedicated their life to whatever the subject matter is that we're dealing with, I think that we need to be maybe more open than we have in the past with that. And looking at police legitimacy and all that we've been through since 2020, it has had a tremendous impact on our ability to retain and recruit the best and the brightest. Hopefully there's a window of opportunity that is there right now that if we're able to take advantage of that to change the narrative, to let people know in a compelling way that policing is an honorable profession. And it is something that most people misunderstand. Most people get their information about policing through Hollywood. TV shows and movies and then clicks on social media, things that are monetized to benefit those who produce the product, not to be able to tell the real story about our profession, and certainly not in a way that humanizes the people who do it and the sacrifice that they make every single day, as well as their families. So I think as we move forward, we need to keep our eyes wide open for opportunities to be able to take back the narrative, to be able to tell our own story, and to be, tell people what we are, which is competent people of high character, people who are able to take care of whatever situation comes our way, but also people who have a high level of compassion. This is a people business and always will be. Technology helps us leverage and the tools that can make us more effective and more efficient. But at the end of the day, it comes down to that human interaction, eyeball to eyeball, and the trust that you have and can develop by talking to somebody in a way where they understand where you're coming from and that you can sympathize with whatever it is they're dealing with. It makes all the difference in the world. So I think as technology becomes a bigger partner for us, I think we also need to realize that really it's from the heart that truly, and that's what, will enable the public to see us in a way where they trust us, or unfortunately they don't.
Wow, thank you so much. And I think it underscores the fact that you joined us in progress, the consistency of the message. You talk about humanizing us. Chief Kennedy talked about the heart behind the badge. AVP Mays talked about the importance of community partnership. And it's really those human relationships at the end of the day is where we're either going to see or not see success in policing. And that really underscores just how important it is
in trying to
that
look
we
at
are
what's
engaging
coming
with our
our way,
community in a
I look at
strategic
the
manner, that those engagements are sustained over time, and that we really get to know each other as humans with beating hearts, and as fellow collaborators to address the problems that we're facing. So I think that is an excellent way for us to wind down this particular webinar. And I can't express my gratitude so much for the three of you for joining us here today to talk to future police leaders who are completing a master's program for the University of Virginia. And we know that these leaders will go out to their various jurisdictions and they will hopefully implement some of the strategies, some of the methodologies that you talked about. But I think most importantly, that each and every one of us understands just simply how important our interaction is with our communities, with our internal staff, and really, as Chief Kennedy said, just how we treat each other at the end of the day.
If I could, Greg, just as to touch on what you just said, wishing everybody the best who's on this call as you move forward. But that human piece, every chance I get to talk to our officers, I talk about the value of the things that don't cost us a dime. Taking the extra minute to take a knee and talk to a young kid and just give them encouragement, ask them what do they want to do when they get older. That's something they may remember for the rest of their life. For you, it's another call, it's another opportunity to say hello. You may not remember it, but knowing that they will, and it may have an impact on their career choice, certainly how they view the police and maybe how their family views the police. And it's the things that too often we focus on. We don't have the budget, we don't have this, we don't have that, resource poor, but those things don't cost a dime. It's all about attitude.
Amen. Amen.